Hey hackers, how's it going? Rosendo from MLH here once again, here to introduce an amazing workshop opportunity for y'all to go ahead and learn a little bit more about Linux. If you joined us yesterday, then you know Jay the Linux guy joined us and he has a dearth of knowledge on the topic and I believe over 20 years of experience working with Linux. So honestly, a great opportunity for anyone who is an enthusiast about open source, about learning about new operating systems and learning about things like deployment, DevOps. And I know there's a debate around that, but in general, just learning how to become a better programmer. This is going to be a great opportunity for y'all to really take advantage of, like, all the experiences someone has already accrued over the years. It's always better to learn from someone else than to learn the hard way, I think. But like, to each their own. I think this is going to be a great opportunity, regardless of what skill level you're currently at. So, just a couple of things I did want to share before we got started. If, in case you haven't already registered for this particular workshop, head over to globalhackweek.mlh.io. Click on share. Head over to the schedule here. You're going to see it in this menu. Boom. Once you get there, you're going to head over to April 6th, and you are going to click on the Lenode Workshop Infrastructure Hands-On. And you're going to get checked in. I'm already checked in because I love Global Hack Week Share. I love checking into things, and that's how you earn yourself a point for attending this workshop in particular. I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen here. Just another thing that I do want to let y'all know. Yep, exactly. At MLH, me, yes, correct. You and if I don't, if I remember correctly, 4145145V, you were also the winner of last session's swag drop. Just to let y'all know, we are doing an additional swag drop for this workshop. So make sure you stay tuned in, make sure that you stay focused, and make sure that you are staying active in the comment section. Definitely let us know how you feel. Definitely let us know if you have any questions. And really, with all that said, without any further ado, I will be bringing Jay onto the screen. So see y'all later and enjoy the rest of the session.
Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? It's so great to be back here again. Had so much fun yesterday. I feel like I could just do this every single day. It was great. I love doing in-person and virtual events because that helps me interact with people. So my name is Jay. So for those of you that don't know, I'm going to get into a little presentation shortly that'll kind of give you guys a background if you don't already know who I am, if you weren't already here yesterday. But the short summary is I'm that person from YouTube doing all those Linux videos. There's a lot more to it than that. And today what we're going to do is get some additional hands-on with infrastructure, and this is going to be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to get started. So what I'm going to do is just give you guys a couple of minutes just to get seated, get hydrated, whatever it is you need to have at your disposal. Water's always good. Caffeine is fine, but water's more important. Just stay hydrated, and then we're just going to get into it. So yeah, go ahead and get yourselves comfortable. There's a Linode offer code or a special URL where you can get your own trial account to follow along with me. You don't have to follow along with me. You could just watch and take notes. That's totally fine. But that link is right there in the chat room right now. And if you go there, you can sign up. I'll give you guys some time to do that if you want to do that, if you haven't already done that. So it will ask you for a credit card at some point, but it's just like a pre-auth for like $1 or something like that. And the only time you would be billed is if you go beyond I think it's 90 days, if I'm not mistaken. Double check me on that. But it should be more than enough to get you guys going. And I'll be showing you how to, delete everything we do as well. So we won't have to worry about billing. So, yeah, someone says water is necessity, caffeine is love, can't compare them. Well, they make caffeinated water now, so there's that. I'm not saying I am personally saying you should go get that, but it exists. So I'm just watching the chat. The time is 1:05 Eastern right now on my end, so I will start no later than 1:10. I might just do a couple more minutes shorter than that if you guys are, ready to go. So. All right. So yeah, I'm just watching the chat. We'll get started soon. Just go ahead and get your browser going. As far as what we need, if you do want to follow along with me, we should take a moment and kind of talk about that while everyone is getting set up here. So if you want to follow along with me, you need a terminal app, Mac OS, if that's what you're using, there's a terminal app built in, so you really don't need anything there. With Windows, there's PuTTY, there's Linux services for Windows. What are they calling it this week? The Windows subsystem for Linux, I believe is what it is. The Windows shell, if you will. That also is capable of being used for this. If you are using a Linux distribution on your computer, then you have a terminal there as well. So you also have the online Lish console, which I'll be showing you guys shortly, that you can use in lieu of doing anything or installing anything. So either way, you can get going on that. So, yep, just make sure if you want to go ahead and check this out and follow along with me that you have some kind of terminal, get situated on the Lenode offer, and we'll get going shortly. So someone asked me about Cpanel, so I'm just going to take a few questions here before we go on. I don't honestly know much about Cpanel, to be completely honest with you. I think it's important to be vulnerable. If like you don't know something, tell people you don't know. Just be honest, right? So I don't really know it. I've never needed it because I've learned to do everything hands-on, like just writing the config files, and it took a long time. So that's kind of my background there. I haven't yet found anything in Cpanel that it enables you to do that you can't do yourself without it. I don't know if there is or not, because again, I don't know it very well. I've only seen it here and there, but that could be something that I might consider going over in a video at some point if there's enough of a demand for that. So it's less about what I like or what I use. I'll learn it if necessary. So, yep, someone that asked about, so 145V asked about Flask. Flask is awesome. I love it. It's for Python. It's a Python module, as they're called in Python, to essentially create a website. It's a lot of fun. It's if you're into Python, I think it's something to definitely check out as well. That's more of a software engineering topic, but I do sometimes cover Python as well. So just a couple more minutes. All right. All right, so how's everybody going on the Lenode thing? How many people are ready to go with that if you decided to follow along with me? I just want to get a good idea for how close we are to get going on that. Yes, Lenode provides an API. They absolutely do. There's documentation for the Lenode-CLI client that you can use, so it's going to be that's also a really cool thing. We won't be going over that today, but it is something that is a lot of fun. It just is. So if you're a big fan of doing everything over the command line, that is one way to do it. The Lenode CLI tools basically allow you to do whatever you could do in the GUI on the console. You just you type in your commands, you send it out. You have to have a token for it. And you can programmatically, in a bash script or just one-off commands, basically do whatever you want. So it's a lot of fun there too. And someone asked if they missed the previous session. Is that okay? Yes, that is totally fine. We had some technical difficulties for a bit, slowed us down a little bit. We went over Terraform. I'm not going to repeat Terraform today, but that's something that we went over. But no worries. I think this is the one to actually attend. So. All right, so it is 1:10, and I am going to get started. Now, what I'm going to do right now is switch my camera over to a presentation, and you will find out really quickly that I am really good at Linux, but not the best when it comes to doing a slideshow. I might have said spreadsheet. I meant to say slideshow. Anyway, infrastructure hands-on, that's what we're doing today. And this is very short because I know you guys didn't come here just to watch a slideshow the whole time. I don't know about you, but I kind of find them a little tedious sometimes. So first of all, let's just get into this. So about me, for those of you that don't already know who I am, I have over 20 years experience working with Linux. It's just one of those things that when I saw it, I knew. And it's such a special thing if you could ever experience this. Like if you're ever doubting what career you want to go into or what you want to do, and then one day something happens and you're like, that's the thing right there. You know it when you see it. It resonates with you. You have fun with it. You're excited about it. And when I discovered Linux over 20 years ago, I knew that was my favorite technology, and that's what I wanted to do. I looked at job ads back then because I wanted to get into the business. And what I saw was there weren't many of them, unfortunately. There's one or two at most, sometimes zero. And, it didn't stop me. I still wanted to do the Linux thing. Luckily for me, Linux exploded in popularity. And now you find all kinds of job ads out there between DevOps and Linux system administration. It's just, I couldn't have possibly called it better or made a better decision. I chose something that wasn't popular at the time I got into it or as popular, and now it's everywhere. So that was a good decision on my part for sure. And it's always good when something you decide to do pays off like that. Now, professionally, I am the owner and producer at Learn Linux TV. Learn Linux TV is an education company. It's most known for its YouTube channel. That's the big majority of what I do. I have over 800 videos on that channel. I'm not kidding you. We'll forget the videos that I came out with the first and second years of the channel when I had a $15 microphone. But, as the channel grew and got older, the production quality got better. And the topics that I went over was less about the production quality and more about what I'm teaching. And I just love teaching. So it just became a thing that naturally worked out for me. Now, the company is going to be branching out and doing other things like Udemy courses. That's not going to take away from Udemy. It's not going to take away from YouTube. But there's going to be other avenues. I'm also working on some partnerships as well. I'm the author of Mastering Ubuntu Server. That's my latest book. We're at the third edition right now. Fourth edition is in the beginning stages at the moment. I'm actually writing the fourth edition. And you can grab your copy of that book at ubuntuserverbook.com, and I have a duplicated bullet point there that we'll pretend I didn't have. So on the bottom here, we have the URL to my website for Learn Linux TV, learnlinux.tv. If you want to get to the YouTube channel, you can do that right there at that site. There's a YouTube icon. You click on it. That'll take you to the YouTube channel. But the videos that show up on the YouTube channel show up there on that site as well. So you should be able to get everything you need from there. The ubuntuserverbook.com domain, that one there points to whatever my latest book happens to be at the moment. So as soon as the fourth edition comes out, I will change that URL to point to it. It's just a pointer. So that's all that is. You could go on Amazon or Pack Publishing and find it the manual way if you'd like to. And anyway, I'm there at Jay the Linux Guy on Twitter. If you want to follow what I'm up to, I try to tweet as much as I possibly can, especially when I have a new video out. So now, what's up with Lenode? Why is Lenode a part of this, and what's going on here? So first of all, Lenode is a Linux-focused cloud server provider. And there's other cloud services out there. There's Amazon Web Services, AWS, Google Cloud, DigitalOcean, Lightsail. There's a number of these out there. And Lenode features things like computing, networking, storage, and there's so much more. And you're going to see that today. I'm going to show you some of the features that it has. But you don't have to be using Lenode for most of what I'm going to be going over. Yes, it's Lenode specific. I'll tell you why shortly. But at the same time, Linux is Linux, Ubuntu is Ubuntu. There might be some differences here and there, but the things you'll learn today, I'm very career focused. I like to teach people things that they can learn for a prospective career. If you have a career already, it may be something you learn will help you in that. And Lenode is the backend for Learn Linux TV. They're also a sponsor for Learn Linux TV. In fact, the first sponsor I've ever had. And for me, Lenode resonates with me. I use it as a company, as a business. It saves me money. It's cheaper than AWS, for example. Since they're Linux focused, it's a natural fit for Learn Linux TV because I'm absolutely going to favor a Linux focused cloud server provider to serve the services around a Linux focused YouTube channel. It seems like a one-to-one match to me. But Lenode is easy to use. That's another reason why I like it. So you get to basically spin things up in the cloud without feeling like you have to be a computer scientist. But if you want to be a computer scientist, then you can use it as a platform to build something very complex. You could spin up a server, a website. Maybe you can get into machine learning, set up a VPN server, a Minecraft server. I mean, there's so many different things you can do. And that's one of the reasons why I like it a lot. More about my company. So, ignoring the fact that my slideshow still hasn't been fixed from yesterday. Like I mentioned, it's an education company that focuses and specializes in Linux. That's the name. That's what I do. And I produce training and informational content on YouTube. So there you'll find everything from like a whole series of tutorial videos that are broken down into smaller pieces. There's these larger tutorial videos that could be an hour long. I'm pretty sure if I had the editing done, my YubiKey video should be out tomorrow, and that's like an hour-long deep dive into that. So I could do a 5-minute video about something, 1 minute, and an hour-long video about something, depending on what it takes to cover that. And I just love to get my knowledge out there. Knowledge that you pass on is eternal. It's you pass it on to one person, that person might pass it on to someone else, and then next thing you know, your hard work with your knowledge that you've gained is now something that humanity can benefit from, and that's always great. Now, I mentioned that I'm a partner of Lenode. At least I think I mentioned that. I mentioned they're a sponsor anyway, but they are a partner. So they've been right there with Learn Linux TV as the channel grew and the company grew. Actually, while it became a company, it's a company now. It was my side thing when I was doing my day job, and then it actually is doing well enough to be its own thing. And Lenode was there for me along the way, which is great. And the Linux Professional Institute is another partner, which is very special to me as well, because I remember when I was studying for my LPIC 1 certification, which is a popular certification, and I was just like anyone else, stressing over the test. I was anxious to take the test. I took it, I passed it, I got the certification. And I feel like my career has come full circle, because now I'm in the beginning stages of planning some educational content around the certifications. So, at one point in my career, I'm worried about the test. And then the next point, I'm actually teaching people to prepare for the test. And that's really a great feeling to have right there. And that is actually the end of the presentation. So what I want to do is kind of get into the platform. Right here, we have the platform. This is the cloud dashboard. And what I'm going to do is talk about some of my favorite features and things here. And I'll also give you guys some career-related tips and things that'll help you. We'll get some hands-on, as the name of this course implies, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So first of all, I'm going to try to go through some points really quick, because what's the cloud, right? I'm sure a lot of people know what that means, basically what the cloud is. But if you don't know what the cloud is, you could think of it like, in the simplest form, running a server somewhere else. So if you're a business, you have a decision to make, right? You could set up a server rack, physical servers. There's nothing wrong with that. Physical servers are fine, and they're fun. They're a lot of fun. And I have videos about physical servers as well. I'm not all cloud. I love physical servers, cloud servers, all of it. But as a business or as a system administrator, whatever your role is, you have a decision to make. Does it make more sense to buy something from Dell or HP and rack it? Or would you save money putting something in the cloud and not having to worry about hardware depreciation, for example, or even just the cooling and the power use that these things can use is huge. You could actually save a lot of money by going in the cloud. Some things might be cost and prohibitive, like storage. If you have like terabytes upon terabytes of files, I think Lenode is going to be coming out with something for that. I can't say too much, but it is what it is. Obviously data is going to be huge. If you have a lot of data, that's the more you have, the more it costs. But it's really great to have the ability to spin up a server in the cloud without even having to leave your desk. You don't have to just unbox a server and plug it in and do all that hard work unless you want to. You could just be on the couch if you wanted to and spinning up servers. So the cloud is definitely a great way to do it, and that's what we're going to see a lot of examples of today. So what you're seeing here are 4 servers that I haven't deleted yet. And someone is already mentioning, that was here yesterday. The server we created yesterday, we named it Meow, which is kind of funny, is gone. And, I generally tend to reset my test environments after I do any presentation and delete anything that I've created afterwards. I haven't deleted these 4 right here because I'm actually using these for a series I'm recording at the moment. So I'm actually utilizing these. Otherwise, it would be completely wiped out. But anyway, we have our servers listed here that I've already created, and we'll be creating one. So this is kind of useful here because you get the server's status, it's running. the plan, which we'll go over, the IP address, that's where you can reach that server at. And that's under Linodes. Now volumes, I don't have any right now. Now each cloud server has a volume. They have a disk, because if it doesn't have a disk, how does it boot? But volumes is more like extra storage. If you think about having a secondary hard drive in your computer, like I know you maybe put another NVMe SSD in there for your Steam games or something like that. You can think of that same thing here, but a virtual representation of that where you have another disk and you can use it for whatever purpose. I don't personally have that in use at the moment, but that's something that you can absolutely do. Node balancers, essentially that is load balancing. Now, node balancers is, that's going to be Linode's term for this. A load balancer, there's different types of things that you could put in front of an app. And you'll see this shortly. When you spin up a server on a cloud platform, by default, it's publicly available. Meaning, if you set up a website on that cloud server, then everyone can get to that website because the IP address is directly routable to the internet. The minute you boot it up, it's on the internet at that point. And now, if you don't have anything running on the server, then really no one's going to be able to connect to it because there's nothing listening for connections. But if you install a web server or some kind of app, then at that point, there's a port that it's using, it's accepting communications, and everyone in the world can view it. But some people and some companies, and I do this as well, they might have a server that they don't want to, worry about the hardware for, the cost associated with that. So what they might do is roll something out on the internet in the cloud and then put a firewall on it such that only connections from their external IP of their office can reach that system. So it's cloud and it's public, but it's firewalled to be treated as private. So at that point, you could have an intranet site on the cloud that nobody can get to but your company employees, for example. So you have some flexibility there. And node balancers, you put that in front of your system or your servers, essentially. And what that allows you to do is, let's just say you have a server that can't go down or a website that can't go down because this server, man, this makes you all the money at this company. That this site goes down, you're losing money. That's not a good situation to be in. So you might have 3 clones, hypothetically, of that server. And a load balancer, in this case called a node balancer, will send people to one of those 3 servers, right? So if one of them goes down, then if you have alerting set up, which you should, then you'll get a page or a call, server's down. But your customers won't know that a server is down because the node balancer is just going to send them to the two other servers that are up and just not send people to the one that's down, and everything's still good. Now, there's all kinds of things that you could do with this. You could have a proxy in front. I mean, I could go like hours and probably days talking about the different types of things that you could set up. But a node balancer is essentially putting something in front of your servers that routes traffic to your servers. And in this case, the actual app servers would not be publicly accessible. They'd be firewalled to only be accessible from the node balancer. And then the node balancer is actually facing the internet. And that's what people connect to. And they go through that to the server on the other side. So I'll go ahead and answer some questions here so I don't go too far and confuse anyone. So someone asked, is this similar to a RAID system? No, I would say not. So when it comes to RAID, assuming that you're referring to storage, RAID is not backup, number one. That's something I always need to tell everybody. RAID is always good, though, because if you have it, then that means, like, for example, if your desktop computer had RAID and you have like 2 hard drives and you have them set up in what's called a mirror, then everything you save on your computer is copied to 2 disks. So if one of those disks goes bad, then you're okay for now because you still have that other disk that you're running off of. And that's a good thing to have. I use RAID, hardware RAID quite a bit, actually. And as long as you don't, procrastinate replacing the last drive, if one of them dies, then you'll be in a bigger problem. Now, can you do RAID on Linode? Yes, you absolutely can. There's probably better ways to do that when you have tools like this available, but a node balancer, aka load balancer, is not going to be like that. It's where when you save files on a RAID volume, it's being saved, for example, if it's a mirror to every disk. So if it was the same, it'd be like a user's on every server, but the load balancer, node balancer is going to send someone to the server that, depending on the logic, is least used to kind of spread the load around. And if one doesn't respond, it just stops sending people to that server. All right, so let's see what else we have. So what if all 3 copies get corrupted due to software malware? That is one of the most annoying things to have happen, because, the mindset of the stakeholders and the mindset of the technical experts are usually in conflict at no fault of their own, because, the stakeholder CEOs, the management team, their mindset is get it working. It's broke. I know, get it working. But to do it right, you can't really remove malware. You can, but there's really no guarantee that it's not just going to come back because there's something still stuck on the system. So it's usually better to just completely wipe out everything and reload. And that's when automation really shines, because if you have the environment completely automated to where the servers build themselves. And we saw that yesterday when we used Terraform, and an example of that. You can imagine a situation where the servers are completely gone, and you could just spin them up with one command like nothing ever happened. And that's amazing when you can do that. And that's kind of the goal, right? We want to get to a point where we have a self-healing environment, which is the ultimate goal. And in a self-healing environment, you can have something in place that will automatically build a server for you. For example, you could have in this case, a load balancer. And let's say you have 3 servers. You could set it to always have 3. If one goes down, well, now you have 2. You don't meet that requirement for 3 anymore. If you have something in place, it can actually notice this and spin up a server via automation, put it back into the pool, and self-heal. That's what that's called. Auto healing, self-heal. That is amazing if you can get that going. And someone mentioned their server got corrupted and lost 4 months of hard work. I hear you. Those pain points are just. I wish I could say that it's not common, but the thing about technology is technology always fails. Like, I don't care what server you're using, it's not going to last 100 years. I mean, there's going to be a point where something fails. It's always the case. Technology will always fail. Your car will fail, your microwave will fail, your radio will fail one day. I guess you're just hoping that the hardware lives longer than you do. But at the end of the day, technology is what it is, and problems happen, and it's knowing what to do about it and being prepared for that. That's really the most important thing. If you tell your boss, bad news, server's completely dead. Good news, it only took me 30 seconds to get it spun back up with all our data. We lost nothing and everything's fine. So if you could tell your boss that, that if you get to that point, that sounds amazing. Anyway, continuing, firewalls, I kind of talked about this a little bit. Firewalls are interesting because Windows XP, when a long time back, depending on how old you are, you may or may not remember this, they implemented, or Microsoft implemented the firewall, I believe it was XP Service Pack 2. And everyone thought they were like bulletproof and unhackable because now they have a firewall. So now they're not going to get any viruses or anything. They found out quickly, like, that's not how firewalls work, because what they would do, and it's just how some users are, they say yes to everything. Do you want to allow this? Yes. Do you want to allow this? Yes. And every time something comes up, someone just says yes and allows it. Then there's really no point in a firewall when your mindset's like that. But to think about a firewall in the sense of a server, the best way to do it is you just don't allow anything in at all unless it's supposed to come in. So if you, let's just say, spin up a website, then port 80 and port 443 are common for that. And if it's a website you want everyone to access, you want to make sure everybody can get to port 80 and 443. You want everyone to visit your website. SSH, which you use to manage systems, that uses port 22. You don't want everyone accessing that. That's how you manage the server. You don't want someone else who you don't know logging in via SSH. You want to firewall that and protect that. And there's many ways you can protect it, but especially firewall it if you can. So that way, for example, at a company, you could just only allow connections coming from the company to SSH, while you're also allowing everybody in the public to access your website. That's the mindset to be in. Like, block everything and then allow the individual things that are needed for the business case of the server. And that's how you use a firewall well, is that mindset. Just having it isn't enough. Using it effectively and controlling who can access what, that's absolutely the way to do it. Now, stack scripts is a form of automation in Lenode, which is pretty cool. And they also have a community list here for these as well, which is just so fun. Stack scripts, it allows you to automate something. It's Linode specific. So you can see here we have a bunch of things, and I'm not going to go over these. It's probably fun for someone to just go through these and see what's out there and just play around with it. So I'm not going to go into that right here, but images, that's pretty important. I have one right here. Images, if you think about a disk image, you could automate or actually you could have certain things built into the image. Now there's already images on Lenode, which we'll see shortly, that are built into Lenode. Like if you want to spin up a Debian server, you could do that because there's an image for it. There's an Ubuntu image. But if you wanted to, I don't know, create a custom Ubuntu image with a certain number of applications pre-installed, you could do that as well. And during one of my videos, I guess something I must have recorded back in February, I was going over how to create a custom image. You could totally do that. And that just gives you fewer things to do when you roll out a server, if you build it in. Domains, I don't have that in the demo account, but if you buy a domain, you can actually have Lenode manage that domain. So that makes it all that much easier to point a domain to a server. So if we go up here, we have, you see the IP addresses for each of these here. So you could have a domain like what's called an A record, an address record in DNS, point to an IP address. So you could have, www.yourcompany.com pointing to this IP if it's a web server for your company, and that's where people will go. And you could have subdomains, blog.mycompany.com. You could do all that in domains. I don't actually have one mapped to this account, so I can't show you this in this one, but I do have videos where I go over that. Databases this is very common, especially in companies and in the cloud, because you have two options here. So you can add a database and run the database on the app itself. For example, you have a website and your website requires a database. Most of them do. And you could run that database right there on the server. Benefit. If you restore the server, you're restoring the database and the data and everything all at once because it's one self-contained object. But that might not be a good idea if you want multiple servers to write to one database. And that's not going to work. Managed databases, which is what this is. This is a managed database service. It's beta, so it's not going to be available to everyone just yet. Allows you to define databases here right on Lenode, and then your instances can connect to it, and then you could have like a shared database, for example. Excuse me, my throat's getting a little dry here. So I'll pause for more questions, and then we'll go ahead and get some hands-on here very shortly. There might be a little delay in the audio, so I'll just give you guys like a minute or so, and if I see a question pop in there, I might take that question. Yeah, it looks like people are talking about distributed denial of services, service attacks there. It's, when it comes to DDoS, there's several, it's just such a complicated topic because there's different ways that you can, or that a outside attacker can use a DDoS attack. And I don't care what kind of device you have between you and the internet or your service in the internet. It's only going to stay up as long as it's able to withstand whatever's coming at it. Now, can you change your IP address? Maybe. You might be able to do that. Residential customers, for example, they'll have a IP address that might change when you reboot your cable modem. So if that happens to your home connection, you might be able to thwart the whole thing by just unplugging your cable modem, just letting it drain a bit and plug it back in. And if your ISP gives you a different IP address when it comes back up, then, well, they're no longer targeting the IP address that you had. But often businesses will have a static IP, and that's going to be harder because changing a static IP, that's usually a contractual thing. And that might be something that you have to do. It's outside the scope of this particular discussion, what would be going into that. But there's things like Cloudflare and whatnot that you can hook into this. I don't know if Lenode has anything built in yet. They might, if not, they might be working on something. So they've recently partnered with Akamai. So they're going to have some more features at their disposal. And from what I understand, they're already working on new features to benefit from this. So hopefully we'll see that soon. The rest of the items here, I'm going to skip over most of them and go straight down to Marketplace in the interest of time here. So what we have here is a list of popular things that you can run on Linode. And if you look through this list, there's some really cool things in here, right? Someone mentioned Flask earlier. There it is. And we have, I mean, I could just keep scrolling. I mean, we just have a lot of different things. So if you select one of these, for example, if I selected Nextcloud, then I'm going to have a Nextcloud server when it comes up. That way it's done. It's ready to go. And that's an amazing value, because if you have a short period of time to get something implemented, then there's going to be something here you could just go ahead and implement. Personally, I'm a fan of doing it manually. And I like that because I learn the most that way. So while I appreciate the fact that there's so many things here you can absolutely go ahead and use, I like to learn by doing it manually, which is also a lot more frustrating because it's not going to work the first time. It almost never does, but that's okay because you're learning and we're all human. We make mistakes and that's fun. So I'm not going to be using these in this particular session, but it's just one of those things that you can explore. Now for some hands-on time here. Before we get into that, I want to mention a very important disclaimer though. Make sure you delete anything that you create that you don't plan on keeping, that you don't want to be billed for. So after, I believe it's 90 days, you know, if you have servers or things you've created in Linode, it will start billing you. Okay, so you will see that. Now, obviously, it's not going to be much because we're just going to be creating small servers. So you might see a $5 bill or something. You'll see what I mean in the moment. But just be mindful that anything you create, you should uncreate or delete when you're done. That's just that's true of every cloud provider out there, because a lot of them are pay for what you use. And if you're using nothing, well, great. You don't pay for anything because you're not even using anything. But if you have a server, and I've seen companies do this, they'll spin up servers and they just kind of sit there and nobody knows they're there, and years go by, and you know, $5 a month for a number of years can start to add up after a while. So just keep that in mind when we spin things up. You want to remove things as well. We're going to be spending most of our time here in Linodes, and what we want to do is create a new server. We're going to start out kind of simple here and try to create a web server. Yesterday, there was some kind of networking thing going on. I didn't get a chance to really find out what was going on. We weren't able to do this, but we're going to try to do this today. So what I did was I just went to the Linode section here and I clicked on the create button. A Linode instance is a virtual machine instance. It's a Linux server, whatever you want to call it. It's a virtual representation of a physical machine. And if you've ever used VirtualBox on your computer, then it's the same idea as just running on their system and not running on your system. And their VMs are called Linodes. So what I'm going to do is choose a distro. We have a bunch of distributions here. There's a lot of different distributions for when it comes to Linux. I'm going to choose Ubuntu 20.04. As far as why there's so many distributions, they all have pros and cons. I have videos as well on my channel where I kind of go over some of the differences there, what the distributions are for. For the most part, the difference really boils down to some of these are more for desktop, laptops. Some of these are for containers more so. Arch Linux is really advanced. A lot of these are going to be for enterprise use, which means, you know, company use, data center use, something that needs to be super rock solid and, you know, take a beating. That's going to be like your CentOS and things like that. Anyway, I went ahead and chose Ubuntu 20.04. So if you're following along with me, then that's what you would want to go with as well. When it comes to the region, there's two schools of thoughts at least when it comes to this, because you're probably wondering, like, what is all this and why? Which one would I choose? If you're a business, you're going to want to choose the location that's closest to your customers, because that's what this represents, is which Linode data center in particular do you want your server to exist inside of. So if your customers are in California, in Fremont here, well, it'd be a good idea to set up your server there if that's where your customers are. Or if your customers are in like an adjacent state, you might still do that. If you're a global operation, meaning you just, you know, you want everyone in the world to go to your website because your website is that awesome, you just want everyone to see it, then I guess it really doesn't matter where you put it, because you have customers coming from everywhere. In that case, you might just put it where you are located physically, where your company is, or close to that. So at least you have less latency, but you probably won't notice much, if any, difference, no matter what. So I think, even though I'm in the United States, I think technically Toronto might actually be closest to me. So that's what I'm going to choose. I don't think it's going to make any difference whatsoever what you guys pick for this. But this decision here for the plan is very important, because that's how you know how much it's going to run per month to keep that server. Now, at first, some of these amounts might be kind of surprising, like, the lowest one is $30. Well, actually, if you go to the shared CPU tab, $5 a month is the cheapest one. Now that's a lot better. I mean, think about it. If you have $100 credit, I mean, divide it up. You could create quite a few servers with that credit if you wanted to do that. Just keep track of what you create. But as you can see here, the price goes up depending on how powerful the server is. So at the cheapest amount, we have 1 CPU, we have 1 gig of RAM, and you can have up to 1 terabyte of transfer. And this is pretty useful. I mean, for $5 a month, it's 40 gigabits in, 1 gigabit out. That's pretty darn good, actually. You double the price, $5 goes to 10. Now you have more storage, you have more RAM, and so on. We have high memory. Basically, you might have some apps that just need some really fast memory, some really good memory. You're going to pay more for that. It's more of a specialized thing that not very many people will need. Fewer people probably need the GPU, but in my case, it's not even in the region that I selected. But I just recommend going shared CPU, going with the Lenode for $5 a month. That's just the simplest way to do it. Now for the label, we can go ahead and create whatever we want as the label. I could just call it web server because I'm not feeling particularly creative right now. This is a quick example, but this is just what the name of the server is. And then you type a password, whatever you want your password to be. Just remember what you put in here because this is how you log into your instance. If you don't remember what you typed, then you have to delete it and start over because you probably, there is a way to get your password back, but I'm not going to go into that. So I'm just going to create a password here. And my strength is fair. Normally I want to get that cranked all the way up, but this is just a demo server, so I'm going to be deleting it anyway. And the rest of the features, I'm going to kind of leave this alone, with the exception being backups. If it's a production server, it's extra money per month. You can add that by just checking it if you want that. It'll back up once per day. That could be a useful thing if you want to use that server in production. But I'm going to click the create button. And it's provisioning. I'm creating a server right now. I already know what the IP address is going to be. It's not even started yet. It's not even finished being built, but I already have the IP address. So at least I know what that's going to be. So if I have a domain name and I want to point it to an IP address, then I know which IP address I will need to point it to. So while this is being created, let's take some questions. So that way I don't leave anyone behind, and go ahead and pop your questions in there, and then we'll just continue as soon as this comes up as ready. Yeah, so the GUI, that's a very good question. So you'll actually see that in a moment. There's nothing wrong with having a graphical user interface on a Linux server for the most part. Keep in mind that when you install a GUI, you have more things running. It's using more space. So it's probably not going to make a big difference in terms of performance. Some distributions that are server distributions actually have a GUI built in, but most of the time, what you'll find in the real working world is that the GUI is most often omitted. Like me, I just don't feel a need to include that. I just don't personally like to use it because I don't have to. I use the command line for everything. I think that's the point you get to. But when you first start out, honestly, probably you'll be using the GUI while you learn. It's not uncommon at all. It's just kind of like how the progression goes from starting out. But at some point, maybe a couple of years down the road, you might find yourself not needing the GUI anymore. And that's really the main difference between a server distribution and a desktop distribution, is that a desktop includes the GUI by default. So it looks like we're up and running. So let's go ahead and let's see. Okay, so I have auto tiling turned on my computer here, so that's going to jumble everything up a little bit. But this is the Lish console that I just clicked on, and it was right here in the interface. So what we've just done is we've actually created a server, and this server is absolutely on the internet right now. Now, if you go to this IP address for the server, nothing's going to happen right now because there's nothing listening for connections. SSH, yes, that is by default listening for connections because that's a very common way to do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this IP address and go down here to a terminal, because this is how I like to do it. And I'm going to use SSH to connect to that server. Username by default is root. Then we want to paste in the IP right there, which I have done. And you can use the Lish console through the whole thing, and that's fine. You don't have to do what I'm doing here. If you have a terminal app on your operating system installed and ready to go, you can absolutely do this. I just think it looks a lot better when we are going over it to see it in this way, because I can especially control the font sizes and everything to make sure you guys don't have to squint. But I'll press enter, and the first time we connect to a server, it's like, do you really want to? Well, yeah, I think I do. And I'll type in the password that I created when I first created the instance. And I'm in. So I'm actually logged into the server right now. And we have a command prompt. So as you can see here, there's no GUI, but it's okay. I can help you guys out. So I'm going to give you some commands. If you want to follow along with me, that's going to be a lot of fun here. So before we do that, what I'm going to do is make sure I have the IP address here. I'm going to close the Lish console because I am using SSH. And I'm going to go into another tab and paste the IP address. Nothing should happen. If I do this, it should fail. And it did. I was expecting it to fail because I didn't actually create anything that's, like a web server. I didn't install anything. So, of course, the IP address exists and it's publicly available. There's nothing there, though. So if you go there, nothing's going to happen. But let's make something happen, right? So what we can do, and I'm so used to typing sudo, you don't need sudo with root. Basically, we're going to run apt update. So if you didn't already know this, Linux had the App Store mentality before Apple made it famous with the iPhone. Essentially, you have servers called repositories that have software. So when someone makes their app available for Linux, most of the time they'll put it in the repository server. They'll upload it to that, and then when you do apt update, it refreshes the list of available packages. Okay, so that way you know what's available, and you should run this once a day if you're running on Ubuntu, just to make sure you're up to date with the synchronization. And it's going pretty quick right now, so this might mean that we're not going to run into the problem we ran into yesterday. So let that finish. So we ran sudo apt update apt in this one. Okay, so that finished, and the next command we're going to run is apt install and then Apache 2, just like that. So I'll leave that on the screen for a moment there. All right, so I will press enter. And it's going to install some additional packages and that's what we call software in Linux. Basically, we call them packages. And Apache needs other things. And that's common. We used to have to figure this out ourselves when I first started. But we have tools like apt that have some knowledge about what's required to make Apache work. And it's going to do what it needs to make sure that every requirement for what I've asked for is satisfied. So that's why there's additional things there. So I'll just press enter for that and check this out. It is actually working this time. So this is what I wanted to see yesterday. I still don't know what was going on yesterday, but well, that's probably too late now to go back and try to find it now that the problem's not happening anymore. So we have installed Apache. So if we run systemctl and then status Apache 2, the same name of the package that we just installed. So systemctl and then status and then Apache 2. We can see in green there, it's active and running. So that means it's listening for connections. Some distributions, they don't start the service automatically. They leave that up to you. If that's the case, then it would have looked like, if I just recall this here, it would have looked like systemctl start Apache 2 if it wasn't running, but it is running. We know it's running because we saw the green text. So again, if we do systemctl status Apache 2, we see that it is running. So did anyone have any problems with this part here before I go on? I don't want to leave anyone behind if they need a hand. Is everything good? Yeah, and we're doing everything manually because I wanted to show you guys more of what the components of the cloud is. But in a real world, like somebody mentioned, you would absolutely be using things like Terraform, Ansible, there's all these different tools. We went over some of those yesterday, and that's absolutely the best way to do it. Usually doing it manually is what you do the first time. But I mean, there's nothing wrong with doing it manually. If you only have one server, it's probably not an issue. Anyway, I'm going to press Q to break out of that. Let's go back to our browser, and we have the failure page. I'm going to blow up the text here. And here's the text. We tried to do this earlier, and we weren't able to do that because when I went to this IP address, there's nothing running. But we did install Apache this time, so let's just try again. And of course, it's going to make a liar out of me. But the reason why is because it's HTTPS, and I actually have it as HTTP. And there it is, Apache 2 default page. So here's what's interesting, just to kind of really put this into perspective, like what we've done. I mean, we have actually created a web page that anyone in the world can go to right now. Granted, it's not an interesting site. This isn't really exciting here, right? It's just a test page. It's not the most amazing thing you've ever seen on the internet, but don't minimize the, what you've done here. You've actually, if you're following along with me, you have created a website. You have made a website exist. It doesn't matter that it's the default page. You did the thing, and now it's there. Now, for fun, I think this might be really cool. Totally unscripted. I didn't actually think I'd do this, but I'm going to go. Let's just go for this. Let's go into the directory where that file is. So if you use CD, and I believe if I remember correctly, it's /var/www/html. And that just gets us into that directory. And then ls lists the storage. We have index.html. Now check this out. You can use the nano text editor and then type the file name. We have to be in the directory that I'm in right now. So you have to be here. So you had to have done this. Whoops. You had, run this command here, go into the directory, and then we have this file inside the directory. I'm just editing that file. So if I press enter, check it out. This is the start page right here, the file that we saw in the browser. I'm going to do Control X to log out of that. I'm going to make a backup copy of it. So I'll do CP for copy, and I'm just going to make a backup copy of that. I don't know why, just because I might need it. I doubt I'll ever need it. Anyway, let's just use nano again to go back into the same file. And I am just going to do Control K, which is, deletes entire lines. I'm just going to clear everything. I'm just going to actually hold Control and K, and it's just going to wipe everything out of this file right here. There's a lot of code in this default file right here. So, and yes, there are faster ways to do this. I forgot how long the file actually was. So now it's completely emptied out, right? So what we could do is just start typing HTML. I'm just going to start typing something completely random here. So what should we call the website? This is the name that's going to show in like the top part of the window here. So what should we call our website? I'll let somebody just pop something in the chat. And first thing I see that I think is fun, I'll go ahead and use it. So I'll give you guys a few more seconds here. Any names stand out? I mean, we could use meow this time, right? So we used yesterday. So, meow meow. We could just do that because it was meow yesterday. So it's meow meow. I'll just make it 2 words here. I mean, honestly, you guys can make yours whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. This is just what you're going to see in the presentation. So I'm going to start body, and I am not an HTML master or anything like that. So this is going to be super simple. And there's probably a few best practices I'm not really catering to, but we're going to ignore that. I'm just going to type hello world here. And I'll close this statement. And I probably should have put a few spaces there. That's very common. We're going to close our body tag. And what we're going to do is close out the HTML as well. So super simple. It's actually not going to be anywhere near as busy as the test one was. And I'll just blow this up even more. See if I can. I guess it's not going to let me. Anyway, you should be able to see this. So if you guys need a minute, I'll just let you take a minute to jot this down if you need to do that. And this is really cool. So, all right. So if I'm going too fast, just stop me, just slow me down. But Control O and then Enter to save the file. That brings up the save dialog. So when you press Enter, it actually saves it to the disk. And then Control X exits out of that editor. And then if we go back to the start page, we're going to refresh the start page. And check that out. It says, hello world. And if you probably can't see it, but the title is right here where we chose meow meow. It's right there. Super small on the screen right now, but promise me, you could take my word for it. It's absolutely there. And we have hello world right there. So the point is, not only have we created a website, sure, we're just starting out, and our awesome website could have like a store, like a news page, and have all kinds of things going on here. But it's not that yet. Everybody has to start from somewhere, and every website is going to start similar to this. Like someone's just testing to see that they can serve a page, and then they build the actual page. But what we did is we actually made a server available online. We created that server, and we edited the test page. All we had to do is just find the page, find the file that contains the default site. There's nothing stopping us from editing anything on a Linux system. That's one of its powers. There wasn't anything that says, you really shouldn't update this index file unless you know what you're doing. It didn't even mention anything. It said, okay, it just let us do what we wanted to do, and we did. So you saw me wipe out everything in that file. And once I did that, I added my own code. So what we did, as you can see, just super simple stuff right here. This is probably first hour HTML knowledge. If you were to look up HTML courses online, all we're doing is just printing something on the screen. We're showing hello world. That's fine. That's what we did. And it works because when we refreshed it, as you can see, we have exactly what we wrote right here. So now let's have some more fun. Let's break it. We'll fix it, don't worry. Systemctl stop Apache 2. If you recall, Apache 2 is the name of the web server that we installed that's responsible for serving the web page. There's Nginx as well. There's other different things you can use that do the same thing. So I'm going to stop it. And then I'm going to check the status. So I just changed the keyword to status. And we don't see that green running anymore. In fact, it says inactive, dead. It's dead. He's dead, Jim, if you're a Star Trek fan. So by all accounts, this should mean that we should not be able to access this site anymore. And my text size is way too big here. And of course, I'm right. I stopped Apache, so nobody can access this site. Like, I don't care where you are. Like, you could try to go to this IP right now. And if you wanted to, it's 172.105.6.211 in my case. If you're not also spinning this up on your end, if you go there, it's not going to work. But if we go back here, press Q, and I will just change this to start, press enter. Let's check the status and make sure it actually did start up. Now we see that it's active right here. Refresh the page, and it's back. Our website is back, just like that. So as you can see, the website's back. We created a sample website here. And what's really cool about this is that there's all kinds of tools that we can use. So one thing that I'm going to do, and this is very important, everybody should do this on every server, and I actually should have had you guys do this first. We need to make sure that all the security updates are installed, because we certainly don't want to roll out a server that's not been updated. This should be the first thing that we do. So shame on me for not having you guys do that first. We already ran apt update. You generally should only need to do that like once a day or so. We're not going to do that again. That'll just waste time. But what we could do now is run apt dist-upgrade. So I don't know why I'm not able to increase the font size anymore. Oh, anyway, it doesn't matter. It's apt space dist-upgrade. And when you press enter, it's going to show that you have updates available. And on the bottom, I don't think you can see this, but it says, do you want to continue? Y for yes or N for no. Y is in caps. And because it's in caps, I can just hit enter. You don't actually have to type Y. But if you want to say no, the lowercase option, you do have to be explicit there. So I'll press enter, and it's actually downloading the updated packages right now. So we're literally installing updates. If you haven't used Linux before, this is literally the equivalent of Windows Update that I've just done here. It was that easy. I didn't have to go to the control center settings or whatever Microsoft is calling it this week. I just ran apt dist upgrade done. That's it. It's just going to go through and update every single package installed on the system. So If Apache was something we installed a month ago and there's an update for it, then it would have been included here. And what we're going to do after this is done is we're going to create an image. We're going to create an image of this. That's going to be a lot of fun. So the Linux firmware and Linux packages can take a while. That's normal, actually, because those are big packages. So we're just going to be patient and let this finish. All right, so any questions in the chat while I'm waiting for this to finish? Is there anything I can answer for you guys? I think yesterday somebody mentioned something that this kind of looks like like I'm hacking, which I guess is kind of cool considering the name of this course. I can show you like an example of what it really looks like. Let's see if there's a question yet. So some sites aren't responding when you enter the IP. Make sure that in the address bar, you can't see this right now, but if I was to copy this, and then let's just open up a text editor here. So I copied the IP address from the browser, but if I paste it, check this out. There's HTTP in front. You didn't see that up here. That's because the browser is hiding that. You might have HTTPS. We haven't set up the S. We haven't set up the secure part of it. So if you're having trouble, you could try this format, which is just HTTP:// the IP address without the S in HTTP. We wouldn't have, I could show you how to do the secure, but we wouldn't have time in this session to do that. That could be why it might not be working. So I'll go ahead and close that. Let's check on our server here. It's at 84%. So, and while we're waiting, I wonder if I can actually open up another terminal. And what I'm going to do, and you don't have to follow along with this. I'm just, spending some time showing you something cool or waiting if you want to see some hacker movie stuff. So I'm going to use tmux, and I'm going to, sudo apt install. And again, you don't have to follow along. This is going to be super quick. So I'll have the matrix text going there. I will have htop running here, and then I will, let's see. Actually, I could do dmessage or actually sudo dmessage. And now it looks like a hacker movie. Like, have you ever seen those hacker movies where they're going crazy and I'm just like, my fingers are crunching these codes and I'm really trying to break into the server, man. I'm absolutely not hacking right now, but somebody mentioned this yesterday. I thought it might be funny to show you this. All I did was install Cmatrix. And as an aside, if you guys do want to have some fun with this, now that this is done, we could do apt install Cmatrix, literally Cmatrix. And we could install that package there. So this would be my bonus for you guys. This has no practical use whatsoever. It's not going to help you in your career at all, but it just looks so cool. And then after you install the Cmatrix package, you type it, and then check that out. We have the matrix text right there going on in our terminal. So, this would be something fun for somebody to see if they're like looking over your shoulder, what is he doing or what is she doing? What are they doing? They're hacking because they got all this going on. Anyway, that aside, our instance has been updated because we ran the sudo apt-dist or the apt-dist upgrade command. So what we could do now is run power off. So check that out. We're going to execute power off. And what do you think is going to happen? Well, I think you already know what's going to happen, right? The website shouldn't work anymore because I shut it down. And sometimes it could take a minute to shut down. It's going to show that it's shut down. So we're just kind of like waiting for that right now. So it should be this one down here. It shows running right now. So we're waiting for that to not show running anymore. Make sure, yep, 6.2.11, yep. So any moment, this should show that it's not running. And there actually is a movie, I can't remember the name of it, but this is for desktop Linux. They have actually a movie terminal that actually literally looks like a Hollywood terminal. It's fun. You can Google that, Google Hollywood Terminal Linux, and you can probably find it. As an aside, you don't have to do that right now, absolutely, but we're just waiting. Let me go ahead and click off of this, go back. And is it still shutting down? Yep, it's still shutting down. So I think it's actually, oh, okay. So what happened here, and this makes total sense actually, is that Lenode was like, yeah, your server's supposed to be running and it's not. So I'm going to make sure that it's running now that we shut it down. So it just restarted again. And the reason why, and I keep forgetting this, if I can remember off the top of my head, is shutdown watchdog. I'll turn that off. That was under the instance under settings. And if the shutdown watchdog, that's going to make it like start right back up. So I'll just choose power off from the console, pretty much the same thing. And now this should legit make sure it's not running. It even says shutting down. It's faster to do it through the console anyway. All right, almost there. Offline. So I'm going to click on this right here. Now that it's offline, it's off. And what I want to do is I actually want to create an image. And we have an actual section here called images. We should probably just do it through here. So I just went to images. We'll create an image. We'll select the server that we want to take an image of. And we didn't have to shut it down. It's just better that way because we don't have a disk that's being written to while we're doing this. So I'll select the Lenode instance, whatever you called it there. We'll just select that. I only have one option for the disk. I will say, let's call it my awesome image. Whatever you want to name it is fine. You can see the cost associated with keeping this image right here, $2.45 US dollars per month. Let's create the image. And let's just see what happens here. Hopefully, I'll probably take some more questions in the chat while we're waiting for this to be done. But it says it's being created right now. And up here, and I just clicked on the bell icon, we could see the progress of the image being created. And this is good if you want to have basically a new starting point to create other servers from. We've installed, the CMatrix package. We installed the updates. So we don't have to do those things again. We even installed Apache. So anything we've done is going to be a part of the image. And we don't have to do those things again when we create an instance from this image. So that's a good way to do it. If you have and this will happen in your career, you have a list of, I don't know, a dozen things that you want in your servers always, then you could build those 12 things into the image. And then every time you go to spin up a server going forward, you use that image and you won't have to do those 12 things again. It's just a major time saving kind of thing. So I think we're sitting about 86, 87%. See it right there. So clear RAM. Oh, okay. So I will show you that shortly here. As a matter of fact, I could probably just show you here on the local terminal because I run Linux on my desktop. The free-m command will show you the memory, like how much memory you have, and my text is wrapped here. I have 16 gigs on this particular server, and we see how much swap I have. Now, don't worry that there's 7 gigs used. The available, which is going to be the last one, is important. We have shared. It's a long story to go over how this is done, but what I like to do that's even better, I run sudo because I'm not logged in as root. I can install htop, which I already have installed anyway. Once I install it, this is like my favorite way to know what's being used. I have 8 cores on this laptop, so that's what you're seeing right now, my Linux powered laptop. We have the average CPU usage, and you can install htop on a server as well. Most people do. I'm using about 9 gigs of memory here currently, 0% swap. You can see how busy each of the cores are. So that's one way. So when you say clear RAM, some people might use the term RAM to mean something else. So you could ask your question again if that's not what you meant. Shodan, I believe, is what you're mentioning. Unless you're talking about actual Snowden, the person, or Shodan, the site. Might need some clarification on that. First, I thought you were talking about Shodan. So we're at 94% here. So someone wants to clarify their question that they've already asked or ask a new one. You can go ahead and do that. Yes, storing images there is a charge for that, and it was shown as I was creating it was $2.45 a month. So we'll need to make sure we delete anything we create, unless you don't want to delete it. If it's something you're going to continue to use, then absolutely keep it. I mean, so at this point, I set up a server $5 a month. And there's $2.45 a month for the image. So we're just shy of $8 a month for our monthly bill right now, which isn't too bad if you want to keep the server around. I mean, that's depending on your situation, that might not be all that bad. So the image is actually done. We have it right here. So what I'm going to do is create a new Lenode instance. I just hit the create button up here. I went down to Lenode. So that's what I want to do. Images. So it defaults to Debian. Let's scroll through the list. What do we have here? So if I remember correctly, off the top of my head, I didn't rehearse for this one. It should be listed right in here. And even if it's not, it's still fine. You can still get to it. Let me just try to refresh and see what happens. I don't know if it shows up in this list for you guys, but we can go back to the images tab where we were anyway. And right here, my awesome image, we can hit the 3 dots, deploy to new Lenode. And now it shows up in the list because, you know, why not? So for the region, I'll just choose the same. I'll go over this kind of quick because I don't want to waste any time here. We'll do this the same shared CPU nanode of $5 a month. And we'll leave all that the same. I'll just call it my awesome server because it comes from my awesome image. I'll put in my password, whatever I want it to be. And let's go ahead and create it. So now we're creating a brand new server right now from the image that we've just created from our original server. And if this works, the IP address is going to be different, obviously, because it's a different instance, but everything else should be the same. You know, the configuration, the software, everything that we've done today should all be inside that image. And also we should have no updates available if this works, unless they've just pushed out new updates since the time I've done this. If we see 0 updates, well, that's because we included that. So we'll let this run and I'll look for more questions. This will probably be the last thing we do in this particular session. So, oh yeah, Snowden, the guys are talking about Snowden, the person. So that's something that there's going to be all kinds of articles about that. No shortage of information. Can we link servers on Lenode? Yes, there's private networking. The thing is, if you don't put a firewall on them, then each Lenode instance can talk to other Lenode instances, because without a firewall, there's nothing stopping that. But you could also create a private network, which it allows you to do. And then you could have like a back-end network where it's only able to reach other instances and not talk outside. You can absolutely do that. How does a server differ from a website? Well, they're two different things if you think about it. A server serves something, okay? So if I have a storage server, it's serving files. If I have a Plex server, like, you know, the thing that a lot of people are using nowadays to stream movies to their TV, that's a server, but it's serving movies, right? Now, a web server is a server that is serving websites. And a website is just, you know, is the term to name the thing that you're connecting to in your browser. So if you go to, you know, learnlinux.tv, that's my website. It includes all the pages and things that are there. That's being served from a server. And I also have servers that are serving things that you don't see because they're what I call backend things that are more private, that no one else needs to access but me. So servers serve something, website, that's just something that can be served by a server. So that's the distinction. And it looks like it's running. So we have the IP address here. Let's go ahead and connect to it. You can use the list console if you want to. The command is going to look the same, root at, and then I'm going to paste in the IP address, which is now different for this instance. The original instance still exists. It's still shut down. This is a new one that we created from that one. And it's the first time that I've ever connected to this server. So I'll say yes, and then I'll type in the password. And I'm in. So let's do sudo apt update, or I keep doing sudo. When you're logged in as root, you don't have to do that. Apt update to refresh the package list again, just like we did earlier. That's what I'm running right now. And there we go. Then let's run apt and then dist-upgrade. And there's nothing to install because we already did that. We built that right into the image. So now that's one less thing that we didn't have to do. And then systemctl status Apache 2. It's already running because, you know, we created an image. We already had that in there. It was already on the server when we used it to create an image. And if I paste this IP address here in our browser, it's an exact clone of the one we built, which it should be. So this is the last thing we're doing here. Before I take some last minute questions, what we need to do, unless you want to keep your servers around, is we need to delete anything that we're not using. So I created this one here, my awesome server. I'm not going to need it anymore after this session is over, so I will delete it. And I also created this one here. I will delete it. So we're back down to the 4 that I had. We can go to images because we did create an image. If we don't delete the image, then we'll have a $2 bill. That's just after the trial's over, of course. And I'm going to delete both of these because I don't need mine. So I'm clearing this out. And then you could check. You probably shouldn't have anything under volumes. Probably not a bad idea to check. Because it's pay for what you use, and if you delete it, then you're not being billed for it. So just go through that and make sure you clear that out unless you want to keep it. And I will answer some questions right now in the chat room. So go ahead and lay it on me, and I will see what questions I will take. So Netflix, is it a server or a website? Well, actually, it's both, because if you think about it, Netflix, you can go to netflix.com, and yeah, you could watch your movies from there too, but you're on their website, but the videos aren't necessarily going to be served through the website, but there's going to be a back-end server that might be a separate server that serves the movies. It might not seem separate because if you go on netflix.com, you click the play button, after you log in, it works, right? You might think that the videos are built in. You wouldn't know that the videos are actually coming from a CDN, a content delivery network, which is going to serve the video to you from a server that's close to where you happen to be. So netflix.com is the web server. That's how you view the website. And then there's a back-end process, a service of some kind on the back end that's serving the actual videos. It's not uncommon to have a online resource, whether it be Netflix or something else, be consisting of like a handful of different servers. You might have a database server. That's where the database is. You have the web server side of it. That's what shows you the website when you go there. You have some sort of a distribution system that streams the video, probably a content delivery network that handles that. And those services together are probably what makes Netflix do what it's able to do. But if they're confusing you and you go there and you're not really sure, like, is this a website? Is this a server? What is this? Then they're probably doing it right, because if they blend in everything super well to where you don't know, then that means that they created something cohesive and blended and built in that kind of works as one entity, and you wouldn't even notice that there's several different things underneath the back end. So, yep. All right. So, someone mentioned Netflix uses Amazon AWS. I don't know if that's still true. I think it is, or it could be true. I just don't know if AWS is still used. I thought that Netflix moved away from AWS, but I'm not speaking as an authority on that. I don't know if that's true. That's just what I'm pretty sure that I've read. But at the very least, they did use AWS. And one thing that's really interesting about Netflix is the Chaos Monkey. Who has heard of the Chaos Monkey before? No, I'm not talking about that weird thing on Family Guy, the cartoon. I mean, like a system service called the Chaos Monkey. Has anyone heard of that? Just give you guys a few seconds, see if anyone knows what I'm talking about. So the Chaos Monkey is like a program or a script that, if I remember correctly, somebody within Netflix, or maybe some people within Netflix, created, and it's for them. It's not like, I don't know. Actually, Chaos Monkey, they might have actually released it for other people to download. But I wouldn't be in a hurry to download it. Once you find out what it does, you're going to be like, yeah, maybe I don't want that. What the Chaos Monkey does is it randomly finds something to break and it breaks it. That's literally what it does. And so why would Netflix create something that's going to break stuff, right? Why would they do that? Well, the reason why they do this, and other companies might do something similar, is they want to know that their service is resilient. So the Chaos Monkey might randomly select a server. Let's just say there's a load balancer in front of Netflix, and they have, I don't know, I'm just making up numbers here, so none of these numbers are right. Let's just say there's 10,000 servers. I don't know how many there are. And the Chaos Monkey is like, yeah, I'm going to delete this server in particular. It randomly selects one, and it literally just completely obliterates the server. It deletes it, clears it out, unformats the disk. I don't know how it does what it does, but it makes sure that that server is gone, right? So server's deleted. Oh my gosh, there's a problem. But that's okay, because if you're doing it right with auto healing, then a replacement virtual server should automatically be provisioned to replace it. So people can watch what the Chaos Monkey is doing, deleting and breaking things, and the system's ability to essentially patch itself to heal from that is so much fun. I mean, just think about that. You have this thing that's going around just, shutting things down and destroying things, but your cloud environment that you've architected is so good. It's got to feel great for whoever designed the infrastructure there, just to watch itself heal and route around these problems to where the Chaos Monkey will just keep running and deleting random things, and it doesn't matter. So it's something that you can actually look up online. And that's a good way to know that your system is resilient. So, and I'm not saying I'm the biggest fan of Netflix. I think it's fine. TV, I don't watch much TV, so that there's that. But it's really interesting to see how they have their things set up there in the back end. And there's all kinds of cool things too. Like, I can't remember the pizza delivery service, but somebody put on GitHub a Linux script that runs without a GUI. You can literally order a pizza. You just put all your parameters in there. You want pepperoni, you want sausage, and just, put in those parameters, execute the script, and then, 30 minutes later you have someone at your door delivering a pizza. It's just, so many genius things out there. And that's on GitHub. I wish I could remember the name of it, but there are literally scripts on GitHub that you can use on a Linux command line to order takeout. So maybe you'll do that through Lenode or some other thing, but I think I'll end it here. Just make sure you double check your account and go through and delete anything you don't need to keep. Honestly, at most, you'll probably have a $5 bill anyway. But also consider with Linode as well that having like a Nextcloud instance, which is a replacement for, or an alternative to Google Cloud, or not Google Cloud, excuse me. They're, Google Apps, for example, and Google Drive is what I was looking for. I don't know why I can't think today. And there's other things like, you can set up a blog. You might want to have a server and just set up your own blog. That would be pretty cool. Just set up a WordPress blog and try to maintain it. That might be a good way to learn. And you could put there what you've learned and maintain it. That might be a good use case for it. So there you go. Follow me at Jay the Linux Guy on Twitter for all the shenanigans that I get up to, including but not limited to videos or public speaking I do sometimes. I haven't done a while, pandemic, but hopefully this year it's going to happen, and I think it will. So awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining. This was a lot of fun. I hope to do this again, and you guys were awesome. And I can't hear you. I don't know if you're muted.
Well, that's just typical.
There you go.
Thanks so much, Jay, for joining us on our live stream. It was really, really much appreciated. I think you can see from the comment section, a lot of the folks here are very appreciative of your time. So once again, thanks for joining us, and wonderful content as always.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
No worries. All right, folks, let's hear it for Jay the Linux Guy. At Jay the Linux Guy on Twitter. Make sure you drop in on learnlinux.tv to check out some of the awesome content that he's always putting out there. Honestly, if you go to the Lenode YouTube page, you'll see Jay plastered all over, and he has a ton of learning materials there as well. So, yeah, awesome. It's going to be great when you do check it out, I promise you. But outside of that, obviously, we do have an awesome exclusive swag drop. So I'm going to go ahead and do what I did last time. Don't try to boost up your probabilities by dropping even more stuff into the chat right now. I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to just click on something. And it looks like, yep, issue 1903. You are the winner of today's swag drop. Are you here? Just let me know. As long as just drop something in the chat just to let me know that you're still here. Otherwise, I'm going to have to pick someone else. I've seen it. Everyone is spamming right now. What's going on, issue 1903? You got to get back here. Yes, it's you. It is you. Take a screenshot. Open up a ticket on Discord. No. They are here. It is issue 1903. Amazing. Great job. You deserve it. You've been here. You've been chilling. You've been keeping it locked in, which I appreciate entirely. So awesome job, y'all. And thanks so much for keeping this session lively. I'm sure Jay appreciates it as well. Once again, Global Hack Week is going to keep it rolling. We've got more workshops coming at you later today, earlier tomorrow. Everything's going to be running until April 10th, so make sure you stay tuned in throughout the entire week. Yeah. And once again, Ishu, just take a screenshot of this, open up a ticket on Discord, and let them know that you won the exclusive swag drop, the secret swag drop on the second Linode workshop. So yeah, why are you not lucky? I'm sorry, y'all. Not everyone can win, but there will be more opportunities for y'all to get swag. And everyone gets swag at Global Hack Week Share. So not to worry, you're all going to be getting some amazing Linode stickers in the mail as well. So keep an eye out for that. But outside of that, once again, my name is Rosendo. No worries, no worries. 45145V, no worries whatsoever. It's my pleasure to do all of these wonderful things for y'all and to make sure that everyone is having a good time and learning a little bit as well. Once again, it's at Jay the Linux Guy. Follow him on Twitter if you'd like. And that'll be it for today. We will see you next time around, all right? Have a good one, y'all.